What's up, everyone? I'm Merk, and this is Trading Shots, a show where our panelists debate all things CWL. I'm handing out points for strong arguments and hot takes. We're back with our classic lineup. It's Benson, Maven, and Pacman today. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. We finally got our bald eagle back. I'm sure he's in the thumbnail, so YouTube's gonna be happy. You're back. Please don't leave us. Don't leave us with Nameless.
I'm sorry. I'm sure it has been very tough with Nameless in my stead, but I'm here and I'm back to hang out with my pals. I've missed you guys terribly.
So much.
I had a nice job, nice time in Dallas with Cat and the puppies, but I'm glad to be back. We're gonna have a great show.
You don't miss the puppies?
I miss them so much.
Let's get right into First Blood. E-United had a great week, improving in every game mode since adding Simp. Of course, that is from Fort Worth. Will this continue, or is this just a honeymoon period? Ben, that's what I want to know. You're up first.
It's a tough question, to be honest with you, because you think about how badly they played at Fort Worth. Well, they improved. They won some series. Great. Congrats. Is it a honeymoon period? Honestly, I don't think it will be. I think in the long run, this is a team that's improved, but I'm going to take a point that Pac made earlier on, so you might want to give Pac a point for this.
All right.
They probably could have done the same thing with Cap, right? If Clay and Cap is a little different, if that trade goes the other way, they probably do the same thing in the league this week that they would have done then. So in my mind, you look at their schedule as well, the strength of schedule, everything's suited over towards United. It's not an overly impressive performance by any means. It's kind of what you would expect, but it's an improvement in a micro level.
All right, so it's a bit of improvement, but not what you wanted to see. Maven, for you, what do you think about United's performance?
I think it's still a honeymoon period. I just think we haven't seen enough from this team yet. Like you kind of mentioned, their strength of schedule wasn't the hardest. I liked a lot of what I saw, but is anyone here convinced that this is going to be a championship caliber team yet? No, I don't think we are yet. Now, is there potential for that to be the case? Yes, absolutely, but we haven't seen enough yet. I think it's just due to the size of the body of work, and I agree with you as well. Like, if Cap was there, if they still the same old roster, they could have the same record this week too. I guess I'm just not convinced yet. But I did like what I saw from Simp. I mean, Simp, when he had the #1 overall as a DKD and the new COD stat rating, I think he was like 3rd overall. Like, Simp's been disgusting, but as a whole, not sold quite yet.
It's a lot of big changes. I mean, when we're talking honeymoon period, though, don't you think, like, boom, like, overperform, like 4-0, smoked everyone, like...
And even
they didn't really do that.
All 3 of their wins were still, I mean, close, right? For the most part, they had a 3-0, but they were still pretty close games.
Pacman, for you, what did you think of United this week?
I do believe that it was a honeymoon period, of course, but I don't think that it was egregious. Like I feel like they're gonna be able to continue it because of Clayster. Clayster had his best week so far. Like, by far, he performed incredible in the respawns. I think he might have had 2 bad maps, one of them which he pulled out the Rampart, something he probably hasn't practiced at home. So if Clay can keep that up, that's why I think this United team is scary, because when Clay's on fire, we've seen him in the past where he gets to those points where nobody can stop him. He was nowhere near that with the old roster. So picking up Simp maybe open up the map for him, and once RC's hits that form, RC's has not been playing as well as he was, and they still went 3-1. So once RC steps back up, and if Clay can keep that going, I feel like this United team can be strong.
I also think this is a time where, like, they actually maybe need Brian Saint a little more than they have in the past. Like, I've knocked him a little bit because I've heard that he doesn't provide a lot for this team, but I don't know that he needed to back when you had Cap and Clay on the team. But now that you have a newcomer coming in, you have young players in Abizi and Simp, Cap is gone, who might have, even though he's not like the leader per se, like, he sort of takes the pressure off a coach in a way.
It's everybody on track.
I think they're going to maybe need a little bit more value from a coaching figure. And I don't know if Brian Saint's that guy, but I think they're going to need him now, absolutely.
All right, I am going to give Pac 1 point, as you said. You know, they're able to get him that 3rd point. But to follow that up, I want to know. Obviously, it was a pretty dramatic roster change across the board between Clayster, J-Cap. I want to know the validation of this roster change. What do these guys have to place at London or in the future to validate it? Because with J-Cap, they got 2nd place. Do you see that team winning a title? Where do they have to place for you, Benson, to validate this change?
You know, you look at the talent on that team and you think they should be able to win a championship. That's not something which is crazy. I mean, you know, LG just won a championship, for example. Not that many people saw that coming. Last place, like they got at Fort Worth, that's just simply not good enough. And I think we all know that. So if you think about the year so far, from 2nd place to a really massive underperformance.
But we know there was a ton of drama.
Obviously, which is always going to affect players. I think if this is the roster which stays for the rest of the year, come maybe not London, but maybe event down the line, they have a chance of winning. For me, London, I think you're looking at least top 4. I think anything outside of top 4 is a massive disappointment for that team.
So you're going for top 4. I kind of agree with that one. Clint, for you?
I guess I don't know if validation at London's that realistic. I feel like that's almost too soon to really validate the change. I think it's more
I mean, they have the pro. They have another month.
I guess
That's a lot of time.
I guess
That's
it
a lot of time.
just doesn't seem like a lot because I'm thinking about, you mentioned online scrims and stuff, sure, but when you think about how much they got to play, it's really just this week of crossplay. Like that's it, and then that's what they have for London. So, and then as far as the Toronto tournament, I think they've split up. A couple of the players are playing with like Gunless, like RC's is playing maybe a BZ. They've split up a little bit, so they're not going to be playing together at that. I guess I think that's what I'm saying. There's not going to have that much time to play together. I find it hard to validate anything based on London. What it would take, though, yes, it would take a top 4 run to do it for me. I just don't see them doing that personally. I don't think they're going to get top 4, and I guess I'm saying it's too early for me to knock them for that poor placement. Like if they place top 8, top 12, I think it's too early to really be like, oh God, they shouldn't have done it. It's not a lot of time.
Fair.
Okay, Pack, for you.
Well, they got last place, right? they got last place. Fact. So when you come to validating the roster, anything above that to me is an improvement. Now, the way I look at it is Optic got top 12. That's not going to happen again. So you have Optic, Splice, Luminosity, 100 Thieves, maybe Reciprocity if they keep that form. If you fit in that top 4, I think that you did a really good job. So you finish top 6, that's not that bad depending on who you lose to. And then we don't know what's going to happen with Red, Envy. There's just so much talent nowadays that if they were to get like a top 6 finish, I feel like at London, that's a good start. That's a good place to start. And then from there, you keep on making those improvements. You got to think, this is going to be Sim's first time competing at LAN at a tournament on the big stage for a championship. Like, yeah, he played in the Game Fuel Open bracket, but that's way different than going up against Optic and those guys with the crowd behind you, and then maybe Reciprocity or Red Reserve since we're going to be in London. It's way different. If they get top 4 is the goal, in my opinion.
I kind of see it as a win-win, though. I kind of see it as a win-win. Like, if they make that run to the top 4, wow, great job. If they don't, then I'm still sort of like, okay, it's early. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong way. I sort of see it as like a win-win.
But here's where it's weird, because if you go back to the beginning...
in the sense of like they have an excuse, like they don't perform well, if they get top 4,
that's
like,
true.
wow.
But if you go back to the very beginning of the year, ever since that first event ended, we all said, yeah, United top 4 team, guaranteed. That was the mentality we all had. That's the mentality the community had. And now, to your point, which I do agree with, but it's interesting saying, well, yeah, top 4 is a bit of a stretch. Top 6 is more realistic. I'm saying top 4 would be great. It's weird how that mentality has shifted. And for me, that's the worry with the United. We no longer have them as guaranteed top 4 team. It's now,
I think
you got to prove yourself.
Just because we haven't seen enough. We just haven't seen enough.
But you saw them get last place.
Well, I mean with the new roster. I think it's just we haven't seen enough.
All right, so I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the United, especially Sim. I think he stepped up big time, but you can tell there's a lot of adjustments that
he's
need
nasty.
to be made.
Sim has been discussing. We're with that.
Yeah, I mean, his sniper, he was doing some crazy things. That's going to do it, though, for First Blood. Let's go ahead and take a look at the scores. I believe, Pacman, you have 5. You got a less extra love from Ben. Ben, you're at 4 and Maven. Well, it's still early. You return a slow start.
I only got 3 points during all that?
Yeah, I mean, really, you did. You just talked.
Talked, but you didn't say much.
That's my career. That's my career. Talk a lot and say nothing. All right.
Well, but the good thing for you, I guess if there is a good thing, you're in last place. You'll be first up for Quickscope, and now we're going to get right into Quickscope. Red Reserve had an abysmal record this week with rumors flying about possible roster changes. I want to know, what is the smartest move for Red to make? Clint, we'll start with you.
The smartest move for Red or the smartest move for the players? Because I'm more concerned about the players. I've heard from multiple people that they haven't been paid in months. So for me, who likes a lot of these players and think there's a lot of talent, I hope they get to go elsewhere or somewhere magical funding appears for these players to get paid, because they're in a really tough spot. Like, this has been a crazy scenario for them. Like, I was talking to Trey before Hot Mic, and first everything about dropping bans, then Scraps wants to leave. Like, this has been really ugly, and you've seen it in the dynamic from the players on stage after losses. But for me, I'm less sort of hoping they bring in a player to fix this and more that some of these players find a new home, because when I heard they weren't being paid, like that pisses me off.
So you're thinking just a complete disband?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but you're asking what I would like to happen for these guys. Like, I hope they find a home where they're getting paid each month. That's what I hope.
All right, well, I was really just trying to focus on the team and how they can improve, but Ben, maybe if that's what you want to focus on, that's you.
That's
Ben.
how I feel!
All right, Ben, you're up.
I actually do feel very similar with Clint. I think it's a little unfair what the players are going through if the rumors
They're dealing with a lot.
True.
Yep.
But in terms of how you fix a team, well, here's the first thing. Obviously, 2 former professional players at the table. If you ever finish an event and you say, all right, we need to make a team change, and everyone agrees, and you even have the player say, I'm an FA, I'm out, going back to that a few days later probably isn't the smartest move. I think that's a decision which you've already made. Consciously, you can see the players, they look dead, they look defeated on the main stage. It's actually kind of depressing to cast it sometimes. I think you need to bring in new blood. You need a new injection. Who'd you go for? I think you go for Alex.
I like that. I think Alex, too. I think Alex is that young player where...
Aren't there most of the rumors around him with, like,
There's a lot of potential.
You get him in. You say, hey, you
making a change
you want to win a championship? You do? Come on over.
I would be very surprised. I would be very surprised.
That'd be a weird move after just getting 3rd place.
Yeah, it would. Pacman, for you, the move that Red has to make.
So I agree with what you said, of course. Pay those guys. Yeah. Pay those guys. Okay, so I'm going to go a little weird. I think Scraps is their best player, but I don't want someone on my team who doesn't want to be on my team. He's constantly tweeting about switching teams and like his possible team offers. That could have a lot to do with the organization, right? If you're not getting paid, obviously.
You see the photo last night of him?
Yeah, but in terms of just the core of your team, I would keep Rated, Joe, and Zero. And then if you don't want to play with Vance, like Ben said, just don't play with them. And if you don't want to team with me, get off my team. I don't care how good you are. Unless you're Michael Jordan or something like that, you're not carrying us to wins. Give me someone who wants to play with me. Help our chemistry. You don't want to play with us, get out.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a weird element. Again, there's a lot going on with that Red Reserve team. I think maybe you might see a couple of changes. Maybe Scraps goes a North American team. Maybe even Zero does. There's some rumors around those players, potentially getting on a North American squad, some international teams. But I think there's going to be a change. I will tell you one thing. I bet you Joe and Rated stick together. I bet you that's
a bold.
I bet you that probably happens. But
there's a lot of love there.
There is. All right, but after a poor performance both at Fort Worth and in the league, the specter of roster changes hangs over Evil Geniuses once again. What moves should they make, if any? Ben, we're going to start with you with EG.
I mean, at this point, what is there to say about EG? It's just depressing. They come out and they beat Envy, and you're thinking, whoa, finally, we get to see a little bit of something. No, that's not the case. Bringing in Attach has been great. For me, though, I think the other 4 players, you've had your time. You've had a lot of time. And
All 4.
You haven't proven anything. Get them out. Get in some new blood. I think it's time. One player I would love to see in the league personally is Zuma. I think he did a good job when he was playing for Optic Gaming. Maybe you get that chemistry back with Attach. Yes, there was a couple of rumors of, they can't play together. They can't play together. But for me, I think maybe they can. And maybe you build around that duo. I think that could be the solution for EG.
All right, Pacman, for you. EG, what do they got to do?
Zuma's the easy answer, but here's the problem from Evil Genius's perspective. They don't own Attach, and they won't own Zuma, and they won't own Selim.
All these build around him, right?
You can't build around guys that are loaned out to you because a couple months goes by and they're gone. So yeah, I would keep Attach, obviously, but after that, I think I'd keep Goonjar. I don't think he's played that poor, and then after you have to pick a better SOG because their SOG play just hasn't been good enough, and I think you have to go for the new talent, maybe like GodRx, someone like Decimate, but you can't just focus on those. Everyone focuses on those phase guys because you can't build a future around them.
I like that. I like that take. A long-term take for Evil Geniuses. Maven, for you, I'm surprised it would said the same in Exotic, but
Exotic 100% for me. I had him on Hot Mic. I think Exotic and Attach are the 2 pieces that you try to keep. I heard some rumors that it was going to be Goon and Fellow that were going to go. Then once they heard that, they were trying to get rid of players. I've heard there's been a lot of back and forth drama with this particular team. But that happens. You hear you're going to get dropped. We're going to drop you first. It's just pointing guns at each other. But I personally think Attach and Exotic are your 2 focal pieces that you try to work around. I don't know if Zuma's the answer is because we've kind of knocked this whole Attach and Zuma thing not working for so long. So I don't know if that's the best thing. But you have guys out there like Pharaoh, Decimate, there are a lot of top players. Just who can you actually get? But those are I guess those are the 2 core pieces that I think stick. Outside of that, I don't really care.
It's like the Spider-Man meme. They're all playing. They're like,
who would win in a showdown between you three? Who's got the fastest reactions out of you?
It's definitely not him.
I don't think it is. Yeah. All right, but
you see that? What is that? 0.2 seconds? Watch. Woo!
Wow, you're quick.
We need that in slow motion, bro.
The problem is you're just real long, so I don't know if that's going to help you. Envy surprised with a 3-1 record on the week in their last series. Duke went negative despite a 3-0 win. What was the key to Envy's improvement? Pac, we're starting with you with Envy.
Beforehand, they clearly couldn't win any Game 5s. They had 0-7 record or something like that in Game 5s, round 11s. They couldn't win any of them. And in this past week, Aches had a really good showing in S&D. So for me, it was Aches stepping up in that game mode and helping them win those close games. Because realistically, they weren't that much better or worse. They were just clutching up when they needed to in those Game 5s. So Pat played a lot better, helped out Kyler, and they got wins.
I think it just revolves around that Game 5, right? Yeah. Their record was just abysmal going into this sort of after Fort Worth, after a couple of events. It was not good. So the fact that they got to clutch on up, that's a much better, and that's why you get this 3-1 week from them. Even for you, what's the big difference for Envy?
I do agree with you a lot that I think Aches, he had one off day, I think it was Wednesday, but Tuesday and Thursday he played really strong for them. I mean, he was one of their damage leaderboards, and part of that LG comeback when they had that reverse sweep. I mean, he's the guy that pulls out the Rampart, really tries to combat Classic, maybe pulls it off a little bit better than he does, and they get that victory. So I think Aches number 1. Right behind him, I think, would be Apathy. I mean, I don't think Apathy's been the superstar that we really expect him to be yet, but we saw glimpses. We saw moments where he had big entry kills, took over at points in the game. Again, he's not where he needs to be, but when he's playing stronger, I mean, this team is absolutely deadly.
I just think he was a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't having those games where he was, I don't know, like double negative. Like,
Yeah.
the stuff we're not used to seeing. Like, he was 25 and 25. That's good for
fine.
Apathy, just based off what we've seen so far.
Also, to this point, have we seen any teams where there's two dominant Sog duos going off at the same time? Usually
Easy and Simp.
Well, even then,
They
like,
still
they were-
went, like, to game fives, right?
Yeah, but that's probably the
So-
one that pops to mind. That,
and that's also short term, right?
Yeah.
Long term, we really haven't seen it. Usually, one of them is going off.
oh, one person sliding in first, right? Like,
Exactly.
that's where it's.
Yeah.
That's where it can
So
be tough.
App just playing consistent helps a lot.
Yeah, Ben, for you. Envy.
You know, I brought up the stat, I think it was before Fort Worth, where their Game 5 search and destroy was 1-6, and that was what we've been talking about. Their Game 5s have been terrible. They've not been clutch. Finally, we get to see a little bit of production from them. They seem to find that gene, and a big part of that, to Pac's point, is you get more performance out of Aches, and also to your point there, Apathy. I think Aches, though, is the big one for me, because he now holds the record, I think it is, of score per minute in any map. I think it's like 7.7 thousand. So he had some ridiculous amount of damage with the Rampart, and you're finally getting those performances from him, which kind of, as a leader of a squad, which you kind of look at him as with that MV squad, you're like, all right, well, finally we're getting that from our captain, and it's good to see.
Yeah,
because when Hook plays bad, that's a concern. Like, if you'd have told me Hook can play bad,
Typically,
happen.
they lost those
It's gonna
series.
happen.
It has to
Typically,
happen
they
at
lost
some
those
point.
series. So something changed this week because usually they were
right?
losing.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Hook's not going to play perfect. It's the
Can't.
same thing with Gunless. Yeah, it was that frequency hard point that you and I casted where he had like 7.7 thousand damage. Just absolutely took over the game, which we typically don't see that. But I will say, if you're an NB fan and this roster sticks, I think you have to get used to these game 5s because that's the way they win. Like,
It's been that way for 2 years.
Yeah, it has
We
been
don't
that.
get to ask you questions, Joe, but here's one for you. Do you think the MV squad does stick?
No.
Okay. That was concise.
And if I was there, I would have changed it probably before.
Well, what's weird though is I thought if I had to pick one person that I thought would probably be
Joe
the
a
first
point.
to go, my gut would tell me that it would be Aches, but then he's the guy that probably stepped it up the most this week. So we'll see if that changes anything internally.
True, but
I don't know.
Do you think that MV can win a tournament?
No.
Would you?
Well, okay. Do I think they can?
No, I mean,
yeah,
okay.
I guess. But
Yeah, of course they
Anyone
can.
Yeah, but no, they're not going to.
You'd be absolutely shocked if they won.
Yeah, I'd be. It'd be just like champs. Where I was like, what the hell did I put?
All right,
was
guys,
this
let's go
weekend?
ahead and move on. After a top 8 performance at Fort Worth, it was a sneaky top 8 performance at that, where they started off 0-3 in pool play, won a couple of bracket matches. Heretics made a strong return to Columbus this week. Where do Heretics place at CWL London? Maven, we're starting with you. Where do you see them?
See, I guess I don't think like it's worded in a way where it seems like top 8 was like this fall off, but I guess I feel all right about Heretics in the top 8. I think it's likely going to be right in that realm again. I think they have potential to push higher, but consistently for results, I think you feel pretty good about top 8, regardless of what you have changing. It goes back to Pac when he was listing off all those teams. Like there are just a lot of really good teams. I think is the most difficult part about this. So I think they'll be right in that ballpark. My guess would be top 8 again. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I think top 8 for Heretics. They're a team when I watch them, I just feel like it wouldn't surprise me if they got like top 3, like Reciprocity just did at Dallas. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they went the opposite way, had a top 12, had a top 16.
They could have a deep run. I mean, I guess I feel like top 8's all right. Maybe that's probably not how they feel, but that's how I feel.
Benson, we're going to London. Heretics for you.
Excited to go back home, that's for sure. But the problem with Heretics is I think you have two different teams. You have the Columbus team and you have the open event team. And that's the problem. In the league, they're playing very, very well. You see consistent performances. When they get to open events, they've struggled. Worth mentioning, top 8 going 0-3 in pool play was their best placement they've ever had. You're so used to seeing these players come through open bracket, make these grueling runs, these fantastic runs, but then finish outside of top 8. Think about that. Like top 12 was previously their highest. So top 8 is great. Where do I see them in London? I think you have to say more of the same. It has to be top 8, Joe. I can't put more faith in them. I do agree to your point that maybe they could finish 3rd.
Yeah.
But you just can't have that.
I agree with you. I think it's less about like them being two different teams and just them playing two different teams. Like what you play LG in Columbus is different than the LG you're going to get at a major. Like I just don't think you're going to get a team that comes out flat as much as you would in Columbus. Which
I have a point to both of this, but I'm going to wait until
Okay,
Pacman
okay.
answers because I don't want to take his answer. Pac, for you, Heretics, London, how you see them performing?
I feel like they're a very good team, and like you said, they could get 3rd place, and I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like they're gonna go the other direction. They're gonna get like a top 12 finish, and here's why I feel like the other teams are gonna improve from Fort Worth. Optic's not gonna get top 12. They're going to finish in top 8. That automatically moves someone out. And then you have United. United's going to play somewhere in that top 8 as well. Someone has to move out of the top 8, and I just feel like it's going to be Heretics because the other teams are just too strong. I don't see Spice finishing outside the top 8. I don't see 100 Thieves finishing out of the top 8. Someone has to, and I just feel like it's going to be Heretics.
The thing is, though, at tournaments, a lot of the times it does come down to pools, like that pool of death. And then, I mean, E United, they lost in their losers round 1 to 100 Thieves. Like, that bracket could happen. Like, it always happened. But to both of your points, the one thing is they went through a ton of just sort of changes internally.
Role changes.
Like, obviously, the pre-land affected them in a way where they thought, we're not good enough to win here. We have to change something. And then they're like, oh, hold on. Let's just go back to the form that
But I guess the fact that they finished top 8 despite all that, that's kind of where I expected them to be. Like,
the
even through all the turmoil, I guess they finished where I kind of thought they were. Like, I feel okay about top 8.
You got to think they were playing 100 Thieves, Splice, and Optic, so they were just getting smoked. That has to affect their confidence.
Yeah.
So they switched it up, and they're like, that was dumb. Not every team is 100 Thieves, Splice, and Optic.
They reverted back on Sunday.
Yeah, and
that's how they got there.
Then they got a couple of wins.
They're
under their belt.
a really good
Top
team.
eight.
There's just so many of them.
They're fun to watch. Dude.
I would love to sit and be like, well, they're going to have the crowd. They're in your. It's just not. That's
Well,
not
that's
a thing.
if
the
this
one
tournament
point I
was
really
in
like.
Spain, I'm going top 3 Heretics, baby. Yes!
Most, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's in London. All right, that's going to do it for Quickscope. Let's take another look at the standings. I believe that's going to put Pacman and Benson in the top spots. So, unfortunately, Maven, you will be dismissed. Got any last words for us? I mean, we've missed you, but you know.
I guess I didn't make any good points. I apologize to all the viewers out there.
Whoa. Don't hurt you. You made some solid points, but
You didn't make enough.
Leave a nice comment on YouTube. Appreciate you.
all right. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you, Maven. It's time for the grand finals. Let's go. And it is down to Pacman versus Benson. The winner will enter the Smack Talk Winner Circle presented by Astro Gaming. We'll see the rest of our Pro League teams meet up this week. At Fort Worth, we saw favorite to win Optic Gaming bow out early, while teams like Splice, Reciprocity, and 100 Thieves had victory almost in their grasp. And well, I want to know which team here not only has the most to prove after Fort Worth, but will actually rise to meet the challenge. Pac, you're in the lead, so you're up first.
For me, I'm going to go with Optic Gaming, and here's why. They got top 12 at Fort Worth, and that's an abysmal placing for them. So coming into this next week, they have to go 3-1 or 4-0 just to get that monkey off their back. Now, if they go into this week and go 2-2, and then they go into London and get 8th, 6th, maybe even 4th, that fan base is just going to pile on them. They got second place at Stage 1 playoffs last year, and their fan base was calling for a team change. That's how hard it is to be a member of Optic Gaming. The ceiling is so high, but the fans expect you to get there. Like that's what they need. That's what they want. And you have to deliver if you're Optic Gaming. I just feel like they will meet those expectations. They've made some changes to their specialists. They have Dashy. Like, they just have to do it, and I feel like they will going forward.
All right, so he's going with Optic Gaming. Ben, who's that team for you that has to step on up and get that challenge under their belt?
It's a good answer. I actually like that answer. And to the point that Pacman made, last time we were in a grand final together against each other, we GA'd not saying Optic Gaming because we thought they were going to win. So for them to play that badly was a bit of a surprise. For me, though, kind of taking the opposite. It's a team that played very well that I think needs to keep that momentum up. I'm going to say Reciprocity. You just finished 3rd. That's a miraculous result. It really is. And I don't want to take anything away from the players. It was a well-deserved 3rd place finish, too. They played out of their minds. But now, you got to keep it going, all right? You don't want to be the team that, we finished 3rd this year. Yeah, that was our highest performance. No, you got to keep the ball rolling. And you're in a great position to get that momentum through going into your home territory. You got to think about that. For me, you have a week of cross-divisional play, which is going to be great. The schedule is a little tough, but if they can come out, 3-1, I think 4-0 would be unbelievable. But then you take that into London in 3 weeks' time. Oh, my Lord, you're going to have all of the crowd with you. That's an event where you might actually win. Like, the crowd can be that big of a factor. I mean, I know I was sat, front row. I spoke to some of the players, the LG players. I remember I spoke to Octane. It was like, yeah, dude, the crowd was loud. Like, it was tough playing against that. You have that on your side. I mean, both of you guys know. Pac, you know what it's like to play against Optic Gaming. It can be tough. Joe, you've had the green wall on your side. You know what it's like to have that extra support. So for me, a little bit different than Pac's view. I think it's keep that ball rolling if you're Reciprocity.
Okay, but the thing is, for me, if Reciprocity does go into the event and get 6th place, that's not that big. That's a good place, and that's not that big a deal. I feel like that's not that
It's
much
not a
pressure.
shock.
It's not a shock at all.
Okay.
And you said it was a miraculous finish because it was. They were in the group of death, and they were the team that was supposed to be the layup, I guess, in the group of death, like the easiest team to beat. So if that team goes back to the form where it's like, oh, you're pretty good still. You're 6th place, 8th place team. That's not a big deal. If Optic were to get 6th place, That's a huge deal. That's a lot of pressure on them.
But by that same argument, we can both agree Optic Gaming finishing as low as they did was a little bit of a fluke. I don't think either of us really expect that to be a similar performance. I think we both realistically could look each other in the eye here and say, well, they're going to go 3-1 at worst next week. Yes, they just come off a terrible, terrible result, but we've seen that happen in the past. This isn't something which is, crazy. Off events, they do happen. You can't be perfect every single weekend.
No,
It's
we haven't
just the
seen
fact
that.
we thought they were going to win. That's what makes it even
The only
worse.
time we ever saw the dominant Optic teams of the past have a rough event was champs. Usually, even when they were losing, they were still in the finals.
I can't. A couple of rough
when
performances.
did the dominant Optic teams have rough events?
I mean, the event United came out and won. I mean, they haven't always had great performances there.
They got second place at that event.
Atlanta, was it second place? You might be right. In which
And then
case,
they won
fair
the
play.
next one.
True.
Second, but
True. Was it second? It was second, Joe?
they had some struggles on IW.
Which
Oh, yeah,
event?
yeah, they almost
IW.
lost. I remember they almost lost to.
There was one event I distinctly remember they really, really struggled pretty hard on. And
It was
like,
that event.
It wasn't
They
champ.
almost lost to Fast Ballers team. Like Karma clutched up in the last round, but then they ended up getting second place.
Well, either way, for me, I'm still saying reciprocity. To me, I think continuing their form and really trying to get good run of form into London is more important because Optics, they're not going to struggle. They're not going to go 2-2 next week. It's just not going to happen. For me, it's almost a guaranteed 3-1 minimum week, and they're going to go to London. They're going to have the fans on their side, and you're looking at a grand final. I just can't see them placing as poorly again for the rest of the year, to be completely honest.
And well, for Optic Gaming, I know this is a bit of a history, but they did have the Anaheim as well in IW where they really struggled. Before
I knew
that,
there was one. I knew there was one.
I got you. I can pull you out of this because
Thank
after
you.
Anaheim,
Thank
they
you.
win Stage 2 playoffs, they win champs. Yeah, I got it all right.
Thanks,
here.
Joe.
I got
That's
you. I
why
can
he's
bring it
the
out.
best host.
All right, and that is it. Let's go ahead and take a look at our scores. That's going to make Benson our winner. It was a close battle between him and Pacman, and I liked what you guys were saying, but if I want to make a few points of my own, reciprocity. They just have to do it. They've given us hope now. We knew that there was going to be a European team to finally step on up.
Yeah.
And Reciprocity is now that team. You're right. If they go 3-1 this week, going into London, the team is going to be on, or the fans are going to be on their side. And then, well, I am also a little bit surprised nobody went with 100 Thieves here because the thing for 100 Thieves is they finally have given the 100 Thieves fans some hope.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who knows? We have that sort of unknown feeling of, well, what happens if 100 Thieves would have played on Sunday? Those couple of matches, could they have been to the finals? Could they have won the event? But, if they go like 2-2 or 1-3 here, depending on how tough their schedule is,
True.
fans are sitting there like, whoa, what just happened?
Ooh.
But yeah, that's going to do it for this show. Ben, you are our show winner. You're going to the Smack Talk Winner's Circle presented by Astro Gaming. As the champ for the week, your prize is 60 uninterrupted seconds to say whatever you want to, whoever you want. Put on that golden headset. Your time starts right now.
Pac went back to back. No, back to back to back, though. Had to shut it down while I could. It was great to have Maven back on the show, as always. Much better than Nameless in terms of the arguments and debates he brings, so that's always fun. But in terms of what I want to talk about in my time, you may remember, I think it was like the first week I went in my former duo. I went at Revan, and I said, you're not doing enough. You're not doing well enough. Well, it was a joke. Now it's time to be serious. What is going on with Evil Geniuses? It isn't good enough. I think Revan as a coach is fantastic, but you need to figure out more ways of utilizing the best out of your players. And secondly, reciprocity. To the point I just made, grind. Please, please, please give the fans in London something to get behind. We all know that Optic Gaming fans are going to be there. But Europe needs support as well. And reciprocity right now, coming from a Brit, you're our best bet.
All right, for Ben, I got to ask you this. I think this is a tough question.
Hit me.
If London is a Reciprocity versus Optic
Gaming final,
who's louder, the Optic fans or
do you want me to be honest?
Reciprocity fans?
Being completely honest with you, I think it'll be the Reciprocity fans.
I think so too.
And here's why. I've had so many people that I sat with at Birmingham messaging me, DMing me on Twitter saying, all right, I can't wait. Just give us a European team. And I've asked them, well, what happens if Optic plays? And they said, we want a home team to win in our home country. There's a sense of national pride. Don't get me wrong. There's still going to be a lot of people rooting for Optic Gaming. There always is. But I think the best example of what I could give you is, do you remember AW Columbus Open?
Yeah.
FaZe versus Optic Gaming.
Yeah.
You remember how that crowd was there, where you had the let's go Optic and the FaZe fans.
FaZe
Optic sucks, and then all the FaZe. I think that would be the atmosphere. That's what it would be like.
And I will say, I don't want to curse it or anything, but there is some good luck on your side. If you look at every Gfinity event, it is a North American team versus a European team. So maybe, just maybe,
fingers crossed, Joe.
But let's go ahead and take a look at our standings for the show, and we'll have to see. As you said, Bent, you're up to 3 wins now, tied with Pacman. Maven's down to 2. But yeah, I mean, Pac coming off that back-to-back, finally Bent had to stop him.
I just want to point out, you know, myself and Pac, we're hardworking individuals, Joe. Just much like yourself.
Yep.
Much like yourself. We're here. We can recap. You know, Maven, he you know, goes wherever he goes.
Yeah,
sometimes he's not on the show. Nameless, I mean, you're just like a special guest. You're really not that much of a threat. Realistically, I do think this year is going to come down to myself and Pac.
You think you two are going to go head to head all
It's
year
nice.
long.
It's nice to actually have someone to debate with.
I like it, but that is going to do it for the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.